look for a moment, please, at 1 Kings chapter 17. This is a time in Elijah's life where he has been separated for a considerable time from where he normally lives and from the people that he's normally with, to be alone in a valley next to a brook. And he would have to depend on ravens to bring him his food. Bread and meat, the scriptures say, were brought to him by ravens in the morning and in the evening every day. And he was to get his water from a brook that would eventually dry up. And this is where we jump into this story in 1 Kings chapter 17 with Elijah, the prophet. It says here, just as we just explained, sometime later the brook dried up because there had been no rain in the land. Then the word of the Lord came to him, Elijah, saying, "Go at once to Zarephath in the region of Sidon and stay there. I have directed a widow there to supply you with food." And so Elijah, went to Zarephath, and when he came to the town gate, sure enough, there was a widow there gathering sticks. And he called to her and asked, "Would you bring me a little water in a jar so that I might have a drink?" And as she was going to get it, he said, "Oh, and one other thing, bring me, please, a piece of bread." The widow responds to Elijah, "The water was not a problem. Gladly, go get you some water." But to the question of bringing him a piece of bread, she responds in verse 12, "As surely as the Lord your God lives, I don't have any bread, only a handful of flour in a jar and a little olive oil in a jug. I'm gathering a few sticks together right now to go home and make a meal for myself and for my son, that we may eat it and die." It's all we have. It's all we have. I do want you to notice that she says, "As the Lord your God lives," not the Lord my God or the Lord our God, the Lord your God, just so that you know I am totally not kidding. And Elijah responds saying to her, "Do not be afraid. Go home and do as you have said. But first, make a small loaf of bread for me from what you have and bring it to me. And then make something for yourself and for your son." Do you understand that she has just said, "I barely have anything, and you want me to go give you the last pancake in the house? Really? And then somehow there's going to be more magically? What? For myself and for my son?" As she listens to Elijah, something apparently happens, and I'll tell you why I know that. Verse 14, Elijah continues speaking, "For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. The jar of flour will not be used up, and the jug of oil will not run dry until the day the Lord sends rain on the land. It'll be enough." I know it doesn't seem like enough, but it will be enough. Trust me, this is what the Lord says. So verse 15, she went away and did as Elijah had told her. What would you have? I be honest with you, I don't know that it would have been so easy for me to obey him in what seemed like a ridiculousness. But the end of verse 15. So there was food every day for Elijah and for the woman and for her family. For the jar of flour was not used up, and the jug of oil did not run dry, in keeping with the word of the Lord spoken by Elijah. The Lord caused it to be so, plain and simple. Verse 17, sometime later, the son of the woman who owned the house became ill. He grew worse and worse, and finally stopped breathing. And she, the woman, the widow, says to Elijah, What do you have against me, man of God? What do you have against me? Did you come here to remind me of my sin and kill my son? Is that what this is all about? Some big joke? Why would that happen here? It's a question that many of us ask when we see the unfolding story of God in our lives, and when we are in ministry and this happens around us and we feel like, oh my goodness, I don't know what to do. You realize the Lord will be busy teaching you at the same time that he is teaching the person with whom you work. The people with whom you live. He is teaching you at the same time. It will never be true that you have so arrived at wherever it is that the Lord intends to get you that you have no need to be taught any further by him or anyone else. That will never be true on this side of glory. And so Elijah doesn't try to answer a question for which he has no answer. Instead, verse 19, he says, give me your son. He took him from her arms, carried him to the upper room where he was staying, and laid him on his bed. And then he cried out to the Lord, Lord, my God, you have brought tragedy even on this widow I am staying with by causing her son to die. Is that what it is that's going on here? Have you caused this, Lord? And then he stretched himself out on the boy 3 times, and he cried out to the Lord his God, Lord my God, let this boy's life return to him. Let his life return. Please let his life return to him. Verse 22, then the Lord heard Elijah's cry, and the boy's life returned to him. And he lived. The boy's life returned to him, and he lived. Elijah picked up the child and carried him down from the room into the house. He gave him to his mother and said, look, your son is alive. And verse 24, so key to this story. Then the woman said to Elijah, now I know that you are a man of God, and that the word of the Lord from your mouth is the truth. Now I know. Not when you first said it to me, perhaps. Not when you first arrived. Not when you first asked me for water and for a piece of bread. But now that I have observed the truth of what you said, working its way through every day of our lives since you arrived here. Now that I have seen what you have done with the tragedy of my son being so ill as to die, now I see how you have handled that thing that was truly tragic, not by retracting the word of the Lord previously spoken by you to me, but now that I have observed you in my company, in my land, and in my house, I see that the word of the Lord from your mouth is the honest truth. Let that be the testimony of your life, that living with you is far more important and far more effective than taking a class from you, because you will have taught them on a level that few others will even dare to do.